Hi guys, welcome to today's tutorial. In today's video we are going to be creating this home screen that you see here. As you can see how it looks in the prototype, you can scroll it horizontally and vertically, and if you restart the entire prototype, you're going to see that we started initially from the onboarding screens up to the registration screen till when we get to the main home screen, which is this coffee home screen here. And as you can see, there's still a number of things we need to take care of on the home screen because currently it's not looking 100% perfect, but I tried my best to make it very beginner friendly so that even people who are really new to UI designs and Figma would understand. So this is what our design board will be looking like when we are done with this tutorial. You're going to be learning how to make use of things like the colors. I've updated the color palette and also the typography. I'm going to show you guys how to insert all these things in the library and use it across your app design. I'm also going to show you guys how to identify the typography and how to document them properly and use them across your app. So that when we are adding more pages, it's going to be very easy for us to continue working with a consistent design pattern. Just like you see here, I've updated that even on the input field text. I've updated all the text to use text properties from the typography library that we inserted on the right that you can see here. So please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. So this is initially where we left off from our initial designs of the onboarding screen and the sign up screen. As you can see, it's still looking way different from what I showed you guys earlier in the preview. And what I've gotten from the recent feedbacks I've been receiving was how complicated it is to follow along with my designs. I tend to use auto layout a lot, and especially what I did with the sign up screen and the input field. People tend to not understand most of that. So from now on, I deliberately made the process a lot more user friendly, and I reduced the use of complex auto layout settings. I'm just going to rename the board now to Coffee Cafe mobile app from onboarding screen, because we are done with the onboarding screens and we are moving into designing the app itself. So the next thing we want to do now is to bring in a frame for the home screen, which is just going to be on the right side here. And for that, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to select the frame icon here, and I'm going to go for the iPhone X or iPhone 11 Pro frame size that we've been using. And as you can see, just like the way we have other frames, there's a little rounded corner on the frame itself. So I'm just going to also do that for this frame we just brought in. I'm going to give it like a 20 pixel rounded radius, and I'm going to rename the title of that particular frame to home screen. Okay, now from here, the first thing we want to add to this is our title bar. So I'm just going to copy the title bar from the previous screen and paste it on this particular frame here. And I'm just thinking I'm going to make this an empty screen so that we can reuse it instead of going to pick a new frame, a new iPhone frame, all the time that we need to add a new screen on the board. So I'm just going to keep this empty screen here, and I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to rename it to the home screen back, because we just want to have that empty state for whenever we need to get an empty frame to work with. So now the first thing you are going to start doing for our home screen is to create the greetings, right? When you open an app, the first thing you want is the greetings or the welcome text kind of thing. So I'm going to hit T on the keyboard to switch to the text tool, and I'm going to type in the greetings text which I want to use. Yours could be anything. Yours could be welcome, but I'm just going to be using hey there. I'm going to increase the thickness and the size of that particular text so that it's big and bold. I'm just going to select the entire text and paste the particular text I'm going to be using, which is this, with this little emoji on the right. I'm then going to position it to the top left corner of the screen. With time, we are going to be adjusting some of this, but for now, I think this is perfectly fine. The next thing I'm going to do is to have a subtext under this particular greetings text. So I'm just going to switch to the text tool and I'm going to start typing the text. And once I'm done with that, I'm just going to reduce the font weight and also the font size. I'm going to make it really small, and I'm just going to position it below the greetings header text. The next thing we want to have is like a search field here. So I'm going to type in the text, the placeholder for the text field, which is going to be search for your specific coffee type. I'm going to hit Shift A to create an auto layout on the complete text. And for this auto layout, this is what I'm going to be using for the search field. So I'm going to round up the corners to 100%, so that it has a complete rounded corners that looks like a pale look. I'm also going to give the background a very light gray so that it can be differentiated from the actual background. I'm then going to increase the left and right padding to be the double of the top and bottom padding so that it creates a balance for the search field. I'm also going to insert a search icon, so I'm going to use the Iconify plugin. If you don't have it, you can go to the community and install Iconify plugin, and I'm going to search for the search icon. Right, once you do that, you're going to see options, and I'm just going to pick this very first option here. I'm going to import it into our board, close the entire Iconify plugin. I'm going to cut it and I'm going to paste it in this auto layout frame of our search input field. Now you can see where it is positioned. I'm going to use the arrow left key to move it to the left, and I'm going to select the entire frame and align it center left. So now all the items are properly aligned in the middle. I'm also going to reduce the size of the font a little bit, and also the size of the icon. Now I want the entire input field to be a specific width, which is going to be so I'm going to set the sizing to a fixed width, and I'm going to give it a fixed width of 343, so that it spans almost the entire screen. So from here, the next thing I'm going to do is to reduce the thickness of this shade of black that we use for this search field here. So I'm just going to find the perfect gray color that we are going to use for the placeholder text in the search field. And I think this is okay. And I'm going to do the same thing for the search icon. From here, the next thing we would want to do is to create another section after the search section. I want it to be called recommended for you, where we have a row that shows cards of recommended coffee types, right? So to achieve that, I'm just going to paste in the text for the header section, the header text for the section rather, and I'm going to give it a specific size, so that it's visible as a title or as a header text, and then we can start creating our card. But to do that, I'm just going to quickly paste in the assets we are going to be using. That is the list of coffee types and the images we are basically going to be using for our coffee menu and stuff like that. So for this section, I'm just going to select the rectangle tool and I'm going to draw a rectangle on the screen. And once I'm done drawing the rectangle, I'm just going to give it a specific width and height. I think I'm going to be using 120 by 150 pixel. I'm also going to round up the corners a little bit. I'm going to give it an 8 pixel radius, And I'm also going to change the background fill of the rectangle to this light beige color right here. So here we have the background where we are going to be placing the item, which is the individual coffee that we are going to be using for this recommended for you card section. I'm just going to pick this particular iced coffee and I'm going to place it in the middle of the rectangle so that the rectangle serves as a background. The next thing I'm going to do is to add a card title to this, which is going to be the title of the coffee. For this, I'm going to be calling it iced coffee. I actually don't know if this is an iced coffee. I'm not really a coffee person. I'm just going to place the text in the middle, and I'm going to reduce the font size to 14 pixels. I'm also going to duplicate the text, and I want to create a pricing section where we have the price of that particular coffee type. So for this, I'm just going to be using $15, and I'm going to be placing it just directly under the text, as you see here. So the next thing to do will be to select both the title and the price, and I'm going to hit Shift A to create an auto layout on both text layers. I'm going to leave the positioning to top center, and I'm going to select both the rectangle background and the item. I'm also going to click Ctrl G or hit Ctrl G to group them. I'm then going to select the group and this text layer and hold Shift A to create an auto layout on both the image section and the text section. And I'm just going to specify a specific spacing between them to create a proper hierarchy between the text and the image. Now I'm going to duplicate this section 2 more times to create an instance of what it's going to look like if the whole row is filled up with items. I am then going to select all 3 items and hit Shift A to create an auto layout between them. I'm going to space them out a little more, and I'm just going to give it a particular spacing to make it properly spaced out. Then I'm going to position it properly on the screen. This section is going to be a horizontally scrolling section, just as you guys have seen in the preview. So much later we are going to be working on that. But for now, I think the size of this coffee is very large. I'm just going to select all 3 coffee items and scale them down a little bit by hitting K on the keyboard and scaling all 3 selections down. I'm then going to position them back properly in the middle of each rectangle that serves as the background, so that everything is properly organized. So guys, from here, the next thing we are going to go for is the next section, right? And the next section is going to be the category section, where we are going to have the menu in categories. That is, we are going to have a menu that is displaying all the coffee types and probably pastries or any other things that are available for order. So for this category section, for now it's going to have 3 chips. The first one is going to be all types, which is going to display all types of coffees. I'm going to call it all items, and I'm going to hit Shift A on it to create an auto layout. I'm going to round up the auto layouts to 100% just to create that cheap look and feel. I'm going to add a stroke to it just to be able to see the borders. And I'm going to duplicate this 2 more times because I want to create 2 other categories, which is coffee category and pastries categories. I'm just going to rename this quickly to coffee, and I'm also going to rename the 3rd one to pastries. Is this how to spell pastries or pastries? Okay, right, just like this. Once I have this, the next thing I want to do will be to reduce the text size of this chip because it's looking way too big. So I'm going to reduce the text size to like 12 pixels for all the content of the chip. And once I'm done with that, I also want to increase the left and right padding of the chip just to give it that balance. I usually double the top and right padding figure to give the left and right. I'm also going to hit Shift A to create an auto layout on all 3 items, and then hit K on the keyboard to still scale them down a little bit. I think this is just okay. So for this, I'm still going to make a little changes on the top and bottom, and also the left and right padding, just as you see here. Now I want to create the active state. By default, I want the all items chip to be active. So I'm going to head over to the colors section, and I'm going to select the fill, and I'm going to fill it with this dark color here. If I can just target the fill. Okay, I'm going to fill it with the dark color here, and I'm going to change the content, which is the text, to white to make it readable. Now that we have this active section, we then want to start creating our card for individual coffee items. I think the next thing to do is just going to grab one of the coffee items from the assets I pasted up. I'm just going to grab one of these, if I can just decide which one of them I'm going to be using next. Okay, I think I'm going to take this. I'm going to hold Alt, drag, and bring it into the board. I'm just going to hit K and scale it down to scale the image down. Once I've gotten a preferred size, I'm going to leave it, and I'm going to copy this text section here. I think I'm going to copy the entire card title and price. I'm just going to paste it below the image here. Now I'm going to rename this. I don't know what to call this because I don't know what this kind of coffee is called. I'm just going to guess a name. I want it to be a long name, so I'm just going to guess mixed black coffee. I have no idea if there's a coffee like that, but I'm just going to name it that because I want the name to be long, and I want to use the long name to see how it's going to look like. The next thing I'm going to do is to create a background, just like what we did for the top card sections. I'm going to click on the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle just around the area where I want the background to be covered. I'm also going to select the fill and give the background this regular beige fill that we've been using. I'm going to move the background up. Now I'm trying to fit the text to be in front of the layer of the background. I'm just going to cut it, select the rectangle, and paste it back. This way the text comes before the rectangle. And I can also go to the layers and rearrange the layers, which is just what I did for the image. I'm going to select every single one of them and center align it and position it on the side. Now I want to have some form of padding around the text, so that the text don't just hit the walls of the background. The way it's looking now, it's really ugly. I'm just going to select the rectangle and increase the size a little more so that I have more space around it. Then, as usual, I'm going to select all the items here and center align all the items together. I think I'm just going to leave the height of the rectangle like this, and I'm going to round up the corners a little more. I want the image of the coffee to extend above the background, just like the way it is. This is intentional, and I think I like it the way it is, instead of using the complete background fill. I'm going to select all the items in this section, and I'm going to hit Ctrl G to group them together, and I'm going to create a duplicate just to see what it will look like if the entire row is filled with items. This part seems to be coming out okay, and as you can see, or as you've noticed by now, I'm trying as much as possible to avoid any settings that has to do with advanced auto layouts or any auto layout settings that can make things complicated. So I try to just use the rectangles and the grouping and alignment tool to achieve what we would or what I would initially achieve with auto layout faster. So I'm just going to adjust some of this spacing. Much later, we are going to work on the spacings on this screen so that we have a consistent spacing across the entire application. But for now, we'll just go with this. The next thing I want to start working on right now is bottom navigation, because that seems like what's left. So for the bottom navigation, it's just going to be positioned at the bottom here, and it's going to be navigating through the major screens that we want. So to create a bottom navigation, I'm just going to go ahead to select the frame tool. I'm going to be using a frame, and I'm going to draw a frame just around the bottom of the screen here. I'm going to make sure the frame is around 80 pixel tall, which is the height. And I'm going to give it some stroke around it just so that I can see the borders. Now we need our navigation items, which is the things that are going to be on the bottom navigation. Something like the home, the menu, and stuff like that. And we're going to be using icons to represent them. So I'm going to grab the very first icon. I'm going to open up the Iconify plugin. I'm going to search for a home icon. I'm going to use the very first solid home icon I see here. I think this first one is okay. I'm going to select that and click import to import it. This is way too large. I'm just going to head over to this sizing panel, and I'm going to resize it or scale it down. Right, so I'm just going to skip the video to where I have inserted all 5 icons for the bottom navigation bar, because this is typically what I'm going to do to get all 5 icons. I'm going to open up the Iconify plugin again, and I'm going to search for a second navigation bar, which is going to be coffee, because I want to have a menu page, and the menu page is going to show all the different types of coffees. So I'm just going to skip to when I have all the icons on the bottom navigation bar. Okay, now we can see we have all 5 icons. I want the navigation bar to have 5 items that we're going to be navigating to, 5 major pages. I think this is a little too much, but it's fine. So I just want to make sure all of the icons are of a specific height. They are all scaled properly. So I'm going to select this one, and I'm going to try to scale it up from this section here. But the scale are not equal. I guess I had to check the chain icon, but then I'm just going to hit K on the keyboard to quickly scale all the icons through. And I'm going to just skip to the part where I've properly scaled all the icons to the same height and width. So after properly scaling all the navigation items icon to be consistent in terms of height and size, I'm going to rearrange them. I want the favorites page or the favorites navigation item to come before the menu. But regardless, that can still change. But for now, what I want to do is start typing out the title of the page, which is the home page, the first one. The second item is going to be for the favorites page or wish list. No, I'm just going to use the favorite. I think favorite sounds a lot better. And the third icon is going to be the menu. This is where we are going to have all the list of of coffee with the sorting and filtering functionality. We are also going to have the cart for checkout and the profile page. So I'm going to select the icon and the text. I'm going to hit Shift A to use auto layout to properly align them. Make sure it's properly aligned, top, center, all. And I'm going to give it a particular spacing. I'm actually going to give it 0 so that there are no spacing between them. I'm going to do the same thing for the second icon and its title. I'm going to do the same thing for the third, and I'm going to also make sure while hitting Shift A to create an auto layout, I'm making sure they are properly aligned center. I'm going to do the same thing for the cat icon, align it center and give it a spacing of 0, and we have left the profile navigation item. I'm just going to select both the item and the icon, hit Shift A and align it top center. So now we have all our card, our bottom navigation items. I'm going to select every single one of them and hit Shift A to create an auto layout on every one of them. But as you've noticed, it won't be proportionally equal because this favorites navigation item here is larger than the rest of the items. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that all of them has the same size as the favorite navigation item. And to achieve that, I'm just going to select this favorite item here and I'm going to change the sizing to fixed width, and I'm going to give it a particular fixed width. That particular fixed width that I give this favorite item, I'm also going to give other items in the bottom navigation bar, like the home item, the menu, the cart, and the profile. I'm just going to change it from hog to fixed width and give it the specific figure that I gave the favorite. Now all of them are having a particular width. Now I can select every single one of the items here and hit Shift A on all of them to create an auto layout. Now we have an even spacing between them. I can then position it in the middle and we have our bottom navigation bar coming out nice and okay. Later in the future, we are going to create the active states and the other states that are not so active, but for now I'm just going to take off the stroke around it because I don't want us to have any stroke around it. The only stroke I want us to have is the top stroke, so I'm going to still open up the stroke section and change it to just top stroke. Now we have the stroke but just at the top. I'm also going to reduce the shade of gray to a lighter shade of gray so that it's not so visible. And here we have our bottom navigation items. Now the next thing I want to take care of is the situation that I mentioned earlier, where we have the text or the title of the coffee long enough to drop on 2 lines. So I'm just going to simulate an instance where I'm going to drop the title of this coffee to 2 lines. I'm going to center align the text and I'm going to position it back in the middle. If a situation like this occurs, you can see now that the background color is not long enough to cover everything with a perfect spacing. So I'm just going to increase it a little more to create something like a square background for that particular section. I'm going to do the same thing for the second section here. I'm just going to increase the height of the background. The next thing I'm going to do is also to change the image of the second coffee here. So I'm just going to grab a different sample of coffee from the assets and I'm going to paste to replace with the one that we have here. And I'm also going to just position it in the middle, if I can just get the positioning right. And I'm going to change the title of the coffee to what should I call this? Maybe caramel frappuccino. I'm just going to use this particular name. Feels long enough. I don't know if I'm right. I don't know if there's something like this. I'm just going to drop it on 2 lines and I'm going to select it and center align the text. Now I'm going to position it back to the middle of the rectangle we are using to align this, and I'm going to just position it right at the center. So from here we can see we are almost done with our home page, our home screen for our coffee cafe application. I just want to create a little bit of hierarchy in terms of the font weight. So I'm going to select this pricing section, and I'm going to increase the font weight from light all the way to the medium. I'm going to do that for all the prices in the app, just so that it's very visible and it's obvious for whoever is making use of the application. And as soon as I'm done with that, the next thing I want to do is to add a little notification icon up here. So I'm just going to right click and go to our Iconify plugins and quickly grab a notification icon so that we can use it in the top right corner of this coffee app we are building. I'm going to just make a selection. I'm going to select one of these notification icon. I'm going to select this particular one here. I'm going to scale it down a little bit. I think this is too large and this is perfect, and I'm going to just place it just at the top right corner of the screen here. And once I'm done properly placing it, I'm just going to change the color of this very tiny vector here to make it pop a little bit, to make it look like there's an actual notification. And yeah, our home screen is coming out fine. I just want to take care of a few things. The chip we have here, which is the inactive state, we want to just tone down the darkness of it a little bit. It's currently on pure black, which is 0000. I'm just going to tone it down to a lighter shade of gray so that it's obvious that it's an inactive state. And I'm just going to select a particular gray color for that. And I think this is fine. And we are good to go. So the next thing I'm going to do also is to change the images in this recommended for you section. I once mentioned that we are going to later change this section into a component so that it's properly reusable, but for now, just so that this is very beginner friendly, I am going to just leave it as it is. I don't want to complicate issues more than it already is, so I'm just going to replace this third image with this sandwich image, and I'm going to scale it down a little bit and properly position it at the center of this particular rectangle. I'm also going to rename the card titles just so that we have a uniqueness on the items that we have on these designs. I'm going to rename this to black coffee, and I'm also going to rename the third card to let's say cheese sandwich. And from here, I feel like this particular video is already getting too long, so I'm just going to make this tutorial in two parts. I'm going to cut this particular part here for now, and for the second part we are then going to start working with the library, where we are going to have a uniform color, because I'm going to update the colors that we used, and we're also going to start working with updating the typography. We are going to start updating all these elements and also identifying the elements that are reusable, just like I have mentioned, and also setting up basically our sticker sheets and stuff like that. Just identifying in general reusable elements like the typography, the colors and stuff, properly documenting them, and then we're going to start using them across all other pages in our application. And please, you guys should let me know about how you feel about the progress of this, if it's something you want me to continue, or if there's stuff you particularly want, because right now I really need to know what you guys think. I need to get feedback, so please like and drop a comment. Let me know how you feel. Let me know if you're learning anything at all. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'm going to see you guys in the next video.